Next question. Why do we spend so much time focusing on parade activities instead of family activities involving spouses and children? Brian, do you have comments on that question?
Yeah, I'll provide a kind of a brief example. There was a temple that was considering hosting their potentate ball, which for all intensive purposes is traditionally the annual event of a temple. And they decided to kind of shift that model by way of focusing on a family-focused event. As a result, that event, as compared to previous years, grew substantially because now they were engaging a broader demographic, and one could argue they had more fun because they had all the elements of their universe present, meaning that they were able to have that fraternal bond between brothers while also having their families there and having the other families having fun with the other families. And so that is an intrinsic value to today's membership model. The days of a single individual joining and the extent of their experience is just that person is I don't want to say it's long past, but it has significantly reduced, because in today's membership model, when someone seeks to join an organization, they join between their spouse, meaning that their spouse actively contributes to that experience and approves it. And if they're not able to participate in it, that reduces the value to the family and can also reduce the value of even wanting to join. And so it's absolutely essential that we start to shift our focus towards creating that family environment. Now, I want to be clear, this is not necessarily about divestment. This does not mean you no longer have parading. If your temple or your organization is doing great with parading and it keeps increasing attendance and more members want to join because of it, great. But the focus is, how do we increase resources and focus on the areas that will continue our growth? And what we're seeing is that family-based environment is a significant value for people between the ages of 30 and 45 to join, because now they can bring along their kids. They can have fun doing what they want to at the particular temple, while the men have fun in their particular area. The women are having fun with the other spouses, or perhaps there's events that bring everyone together to have fun. But either way, a family-focused environment is going to be a determining factor of our growth.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say what's really interesting and something that we have to take into consideration is how family dynamics have changed, right? So, I mean, and this has been kind of changing over the past maybe 30 years. Now that you kind of look at this kind of post-COVID world where there's a lot more people that home is the center, and it's really interesting that we've kind of gone back to that, right? But what's different is this co-management of the family, being that it is very much equal between husband and wife. And so when we start to kind of consider what this new world of family dynamics looks like, I think that breeds our critical thinking of what we need to do when we look at the different events. And the second thing that I would share that just came to mind when you were explaining, Brian, was the Scouts. They're known as the Scouts now. They were the Boy Scouts. I think they came to a crossroads and they identified that we need to diversify in order to increase our membership and sustain. And so they've diversified by including both genders. And it wasn't necessarily the same type of DEI scenario. I think it was really more of a strategic decision they made in order to extend the longevity of their organization. And so I'm not recommending any of that here, but I'm just using that as an example of how inclusivity, right, has in kind of changed the approach of different organizations and may have something as we look at events and programs.
So part of what I love about this question, it's a great question, but there are a number of parade groups that take their family to the parade. After the parade is over, all of the families of those folks that are parading have a big picnic near the park where the parade is. And the other thing is, in our rules, family members of a noble can parade, but the lady down the street or the kid down the street can't. Our rules are specifically driven to permit family members to participate with Shriners in a parade. And so it's not either or. It's simply making sure that our activities are generally going to be geared to making sure that families are included in that. And the other thing I want to mention really quickly is, Brian mentioned it earlier, our organization is entrepreneurial. If somebody has a great idea, they can put that forward and we'll adopt that. When I started here in 2015, no one had ever heard of a tap room. Some crazy guy in Michigan had this idea that I want to start a tap room club. And so a potentate who didn't know what he was talking about said, okay, let's try that. Well, the next thing you know, we've got tap rooms everywhere. And people really enjoy them, and they try different foods and drinks and experience that together. It literally didn't exist in the Shrine just a few years ago, and today we have them popping up everywhere.
And we have tasting competitions at Imperial Session.
Yep, we still do that.